Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, men and women of all ages, welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, my name is Skylar Santana. And on this channel, we talk about all things watch related. Now, let's do a wrist check. And before we do that, I do want to apologize for the tardiness. I was scrambling around to set things up. I do apologize for being a couple minutes late, but we are here. The show must go on. And what I have on wrist is actually my Pobia. Let me take this off so you guys can see it a little bit better. But there's a reason why I'm wearing this watch. I'll be honest, I was wearing a different watch before this live started. This is my Pobia. This is an actual vintage watch. Very, very nice champagne dial. I have this on the Vario strap to emphasize and to extend the actual size of the watch in general just a little bit more. And this is actually a vintage watch. It resembles more of what a vintage watch would come in its size back in the day. And that is going to tie in today's topic, right? We have another watch from my good friend, John Liley, by the way. Ladies and gentlemen, I have pronounced his last name wrong multiple times. He is the co-founder of Markwell Watches, him and Alan Record. I do apologize, John, if you're watching this. I was pronouncing the last name wrong. Nobody corrected me, so it is what it is. And I also was incorrectly pronouncing cesium, as you can tell from the last review video that I did. I had to implant that before I actually made it public. But we did fix that. What I did have on wrist, however, was a Sesame. We did a review video for this Sesame. It also gives you somewhat of a vintage feel with the cathedral hands and everything else. That was actually what I wore on my wrist. You know that if you're on Watch Crunch because I posted that. So I did cheat a little bit and put this watch on to keep on theme and on topic of what we're talking about today. And that is the newer release from Markwell Watches. Now, I'm super excited about this watch to present to you guys, to talk to you guys about it. I do like the brand, and that's in part as to my enthusiasm and my connection to why I present specific watches to you guys, right? It's not enough for a brand to just have a name for itself. I'm sweating because I was scrambling around to set up. It's not enough for a brand to just have a name and be super popular. I really need to have a connection to it. I really do have to have an understanding for it. And this way I'm more enthusiastic about presenting it. Is that fair? But I am, despite ever meeting John Liley and Alan Record, both co-founders of Markwell Watches, in person. However, my banter back and forth with him, and I'm speaking about John specifically because I feel that he is more of the face of the company, if that makes sense. He's at the shows, at least from my understanding of watching the film from DC Times. And he's the person that I reached out to. And through even text messages, I can create a caricature of who he is as a person. It's very relaxed, yet still professional. It's been a pleasure communicating with them. So I am very excited to present another watch by them. And I do like the direction that the company is taking. Patel Philippe is in the building, comes in with the 3-point shooter right in the first 2 seconds of the game with the super chat. What's going on, bro? I haven't seen you in a minute. I love the fact that I have you in chat. I'm good, bro. It's been a long week, but we're here. We're sipping on a little, you know what I'm saying, adult beverage. And we're going to have a lot of fun today. And that is because we're talking about a brand that I am excited about. Now, I don't want to make you guys wait. I already unboxed the packaging because I didn't want to scramble and I didn't want to mess around with a razor during live. But on my other wrist, and I never show you guys this, but I actually double wrist watches. And when I go out to the wild and I wear my watches, I actually wear a bracelet with the second watch. This is the F91 Dubs. And if you are a avid watcher of the channel, you know exactly how I get down, Charlie Brown. It's super dirty because I cleaned it off after being from outside. But F91 Dubs, I don't want to say it's a vintage watch. It does go back. But I feel like because it's still being manufactured, we have to say that it's a retro vibe, if you will. And we're getting caught up on actual terminology today. And I'm actually going to give you guys a new terminology that I have for micro brands that I rather use. But before we get to that, chat is looking good. Eric Mack's in the building. He says hello to not only myself, but everybody else. And we're having a lot of fun today. Now, I didn't have a Red Bull, but I am super excited. That's why I'm going a million miles a second, because that's how I do. So, the packaging. So, let's talk about this, yeah? Markwell Watches came out with a new release, and it's a really fun and actually shocking direction, if I must say so myself. I didn't think that the brand would go in this direction. I am very happy that they did, because it really diversifies the brand as far as its overall theme. As we know, the Memento Mori was the first one. It was more for like that masonry type of, or what's the technical term? Is it, I always forget the technical term. Masonry theme though, right? It has like the trowels and everything else on the dial. It's towards that kind of theme. And from there, he went to the Datematic, which took some of those hieroglyphics, if you will, and translated it more to fun numbers. We did a deep dive review of it. So if you guys want to check out the review for the Datematic, which was the second release from Markwell, and it was a really good release as well. I did like it. He has that Telford case, which, by the way, I at one point, and I'm sure you guys are the same, you get kind of the itch for a vintage vibe, and that can take you amongst many different roads. And now I'm not going to go into a rabbit hole as to the different roads that could bring you in, because we did that when we looked at the East Stoneman. However, I do feel that you go on eBay just like I did, and you start to get a little bit of curiosity. Maybe you want to diversify the collection. Maybe you want to bring a different vibe into it. And what you do tend to realize very quickly is that the actual vintage watches are a tad bit too small. That's my opinion. You may have a different one. You may have a different size wrist, and that's okay. However, a 33 or 34 is not my vibe, despite this one, because this one was a gift from my wife. And it's not just the exception from the gift itself, but it was actually something that represented a watch that I had seen at the 2023 Wind-Up Fair. So it is actually really special, but I don't foresee myself putting a lot of watches in my collections that are around 33 to 35 millimeters. I need a little bit more. I have a 7.25-inch wrist. So you're left starving for that kind of case design. And it'll make a lot more sense if I unbox this thing. So let me stop making you guys wait. We are caught up on chat. I'm going to do my best, even though I'm actually presenting a watch, to keep up with it. So keep this in mind. This is not a brand new watch, unlike the Datematic that was sent to me. That was sent as a brand new kind of feel, like how you would receive it in the mail. So this one is actually more of a display model, I guess you would consider it to be a review piece at this point. I'm not sure. I know he mentioned something like that. I do see an additional strap, unless the watch doesn't have a strap on it. But regardless, he's putting recyclable paper on there. So I do like the eco-friendly awareness. And let's get to the watch. And you guys are going to laugh. When you see my second camera setup, you guys are going to laugh. You guys are going to really feel like I'm like one of the, what are those things called when you go shop? You shop online. You know what I'm talking about? When they would present the watches and you watch them online, they go from watch to watch and they're cool right now. And, buy one and you get one half, that type of deal. You guys see what I'm talking about. So this, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to bring up the actual website so I just have it nearby for me to peer on, is the watch that was sent to me. And this is called the Hard Candy Enamel Series. So what is shocking about the direction for... Hold on. Wait a minute. Okay, something's happening. So this is actually the first time that I'm seeing this watch, and I have a reference to that Datematic. Maybe you do too, because you saw the review of mine. Now, I was expecting the Telford case style for sure, which, again, I'm in love with for the reasons I told you before. But this one hits different. And I'm going to show you guys why and how. Let me find my cloth that I put all the way behind me on my working station. So let's clean off the dial, and let me not be a hog for what we're looking at here. This is on an FKM strap, by the way. And he came out with this watch not too long ago. I didn't get the watch right away because I didn't reach out to him right away. However, I eventually did, and I told him, John, here's the deal, bro. We've got a relationship. Never feel a type of way about hitting me up. At this point, I don't need a free watch in order for me to review a watch for you. And that's the reason why I do that. The reason why I don't make a free watch a requirement for me to do reviews is A, I don't think that should be a thing personally. Of course, I don't do this as a business, but B, that would then limit my access to the watches that I can present to you guys. And it's really about the value that I bring you guys here on this channel and everything else. So I'm going to try to set this up. I may have to adjust. Just give me a second. I will pop this into view for you guys and we'll see what's going on. SSN. Yes, the shopping network. Exactly. You're going to see. You're going to see what I'm talking about. Hold on one second. Let's pull up the camera and see what we got here. So I would like to center it a little bit. Hold on one second. All right, let's add it to stage. Booyakasha. So here we go. Let me straighten it out. Check out this dial. I think that I put the actual website in the description. So if you guys want to also take a look with me from the website, you can. I'm trying to arrange this in a way where it would make a little sense. Let's do this and this. There we go. So, and you ready for the crazy upscale production here? Yeah, buddy. So this is on an FK. That's going way too fast. Hold on. It's a lot harder than it looks, I guess. Hold on. Wait, let me get real professional. I see a dust particle on the screen. Where's my blower? There we go. So nice and proper. So this is the new series from Markwell. This is the Hard Candy Enamel series. The dimensions are going to be the same from the other cases that we saw for the watch in the past because he's working off the case, that same kind of case, right? And that's something that I saw, and that's not easy to do. I think that even though the case is very unique, and we're talking about, let me see if I can remember the dimensions. I think we're talking about a 37 by 43 and 10.35. I know it's sub 10 and a half, right? So I think it's 10.35 millimeters thin, we would have to say at that point, right? We can't say thick. Total dress watch up until now, still a dress watch, but now we're having a lot of fun here. And there are more points for me to talk about other than the aesthetics and what we're being given here. If you guys don't notice, those actual indices are loom blocks. We are having an enamel kind of color. We saw some color already from the Datematic, but now we're seeing a big burst of range from the colorway dials to the watches itself. And we're now stepping further into maybe, I don't know. Okay, so we definitely can't call this a 50-50 split anymore when it comes to saying a vintage inspiration and modern times, because this is an enamel dial. I don't know if enamel dials were out back then. Maybe they were. But the loom blocks I know for sure weren't. And then we have a Miyota 9039 within this watch itself. So it's powered by a modern movement. It has a vintage case, yet now we have the loom blocks that brings it further into modern times and therefore takes a step away. But I think that was intentional by John to be playful with his watches and to also give people the ability. It's just diversification. Yeah. And let's take a look at the website as well. We'll bring that up. And there are some points. Now, this is not only going to be me judging. That sounds a little harsh. This is not only going, what's the right word for me to say? I was saying it all day today when I was thinking about this live. This is an audit. This is not just going to be an audit on the watch itself. I actually want to extend this live into auditing the actual website, because I think that is a thing that probably will be more insightful to John and Alan as a brand if they're watching this on a playback. But I think it's important because at the end of the day, that is your bread and butter outside of us actual content creators presenting the watch. The website is your brick and mortar, if you will. Yeah. So it's important that it's arranged properly. It's important that it has a lot of information. It's important that it is easily navigated. And there were a few things that I saw missing possibly on the website. This is all my opinion. I'd like to know if you guys would agree on those opinions as is. So let's take this down and bring up the actual website so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So let's stop this, and I rather have that freezed into position. Sometimes it takes me a while to actually stop it, as you guys can see here. There we go. So we'll leave it here, and then we'll bring this camera down. We'll bring the website up, and then we'll bring this back. I know this is not the craziest camera for you guys to see what's going on here, but you can actually see even from this angle that these are actual loom blocks. And I'll tell you what, man, I'm looking at it in person. I'm looking at it on the camera. You got to see these watches in person. I think you all know this by now, but the only way for you to get the true feel for a watch, and these guys, listen, these guys go to shows. These guys are happy to get their watches presented. John, he doesn't do a lot of collaborations. I think that he's one of the, and I should say John and Alan, right? They're both co-founders respectively. I don't think that they're so hell-bent on reviewer reviews, if you will. I think that they're more hand-selected when it comes to that. They don't look to have their watch on every single channel. They're looking to build a solid foundations to reviewers that they can trust. I'm honored that I'm one of those people. And that's what I value the most, is my reputation with them, right? That makes sense. So I'm glad. Now, when I say that, I could already feel it. When I say I value my reputation with the brands, I don't mean that I'm going to grease their wheel just because I want to keep them happy. I am respectful in what our agreement are for the reviews in presenting their watches. I always tell the truth on the reviews because that's more important to me. And in fact, I feel that that should be also a leg up for the brand itself. Yeah. If I'm telling the truth about your watch and there's a legitimate improvement, no matter how long that list is, that helps your brand out. If you don't like that, that's too bad. What's going on in chat? Let's see. I'm glad was getting dizzy. My bad, bro. I thought that was so FKM strap, and then we also have a leather strap on here. Did he go away with the curved lugs on these? No, these are still curved lugs. So if you guys saw my review, they do the curved kind of lugs, quick release, leather strap, very nice. It is a little generic. He does also admit that. We have a little branding on the buckle itself. Let's see if I can get that up there. Boop, 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 boop. Get the right. The thing about the engraving, there we go. We have engraving on the hardware itself. The strap is soft. I'm not going to say the other word unless somebody else says it in chat. But let's bring up the website because we are going to do an audit on the website as well. And I want to give you guys my full feel of the brand altogether. Yeah. Ooh. Let's take down that camera. Put my pretty face up and bring up the website. Okay, so let me see if that's big enough. Let me see if I can make it any bigger. All right, I don't want to mess around and close it down. So let's go to the landing page. Let's start there, yeah? So when you come out with a new watch, it's good to have that watch presented on the landing page. That is actually present on one of the actual skits here. So these are all the colorways that you're going to see. Let's click into this so that we can see the actual line up close. Let's go to the watches. So we had the Datematic. There was one before it. That was the Memento Mori. Then there was the Datematic. And then we have the Hard Candy Enamel series, right? And this series, ladies and gentlemen, has a few colorways to choose from. And as you can already notice, I believe the Datematic was 7 and change. We're going from 7 and change. Now, to be fair, and it was an SW200 movement. This is a, oh, wow, drawing a blank. SW200 to a Japanese Miyota 9039, right? So that's probably where we see the price difference going on it. And we have a nice range of colorways to it, right? Loom blocks on here, very, very nice. Let's click into the one that I have with me today. And let's take a look at the website. Now, here's the deal, yeah? All right, let's start off first and foremost, right? One of the biggest things about this watch is the fact that it has those loom blocks in it. Therefore, that's going to intrigue a lot of people that are hooked onto what? The loom, right? So I would say that the most important shot for you on this watch would probably be a loom shot, which we don't get from the website itself. And that is my first critique. And if John, you're watching this, or Alan, that would be my first thing that I would have to say. Yeah, this is a loom monster watch, I'm sure. I haven't tested it yet, but yet we don't have any photos of it with the actual loom. That's one of my first things. Second thing that I would say to critique, now we have product description. Within that, we have the actual, description of the watch when it comes to the specifications. As we see, we have a Telford case, right? 37, let's see if my measurements are all right. I think I said 10.35, right? So 37, 10.35 by 43. So I was correct. And then we have a strap-friendly 20 millimeter lug width. Now, here's the deal. It's all here, right? To be fair. My personal opinion, let me know in chat if you disagree or if you agree. I think that all of this should just be condensed into how like the reviewers on the review give you the specifications and give you the full rundown. They tell you this is it's just a little easier on the eye. It's all in one place. It's okay to have the description somewhere else that gives you the inspiration of like the casing and everything else. But I think that this would be better served if we had everything located together, but all the information is here. There are a few things missing. We can see the 9039, like I said, so that's nice, right? He decided to go with a movement that actually doesn't have a date wheel because on the watch, there's no date wheel aperture. So that's appreciated. That makes a hell of a lot of sense, right? Like I said, 20 millimeter strap friendly. So even though the watch has a generic strap for now, at least we have a strap friendly size, right? And a lot of us own a whole bunch of straps. And one of the things that I mentioned, and I know this is something that he's probably eventually going to tackle, maybe I'm wrong. I think eventually John and Alan will add a bracelet to this, and I think that that would be really nice. And I think that the bracelet that should go with this, let me know if I'm wrong, but I think that stretchy kind of metal bracelet, that old school style, vintage style. I mean, it just goes together. Maybe not so much with this one. I think the FKM is correct for the enamel dial. However, on definitely the Datematic and the Memento Mori, I think that that deserves that stretchy bracelet. Let's go back to chat. Supple. There it is. There's the word, Eric. You already know. Yes, the straps are very supple, especially the FKM. We're no stranger to FKM on this channel. We've messed around with Montreux. I still am a big advocate, just to show you guys I'm not lying. You guys know that with the Wish Do It watched, it's so much dust. This is not a watchmaker control friendly environment. Just saying. The Wish Do It. Right? This is on the Montreux strap. I'm a big advocate for Montreux straps because his FKMs are ridiculously soft. He transitioned into leather, which is equally as supple. So I expect very good things from Montreux as well. But this is also on an FKM strap, so I know it's going to be very comfortable as is, for sure. Let me see, make sure I'm good on chat. I'm just checking on it. Hold on, let me pull this up a little bit. Wow, I made this too big. Hang on one second. Hopefully I don't mess this up completely. I want to go back to, hang on. Technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. Make sure you guys, Hi-Ho Silver Lone Ranger's in the building. He makes his presence known. So going back to this, right? We have the description here. Listen, all the information is on the website. It is kind of written out in this paragraph, spaced out type of style. Am I nitpicking? Maybe. But I would like to see a actual like run sheet specifications again, like how we see in the reviews. And another thing I would like to add is something that I don't see, and this is not specifically for the Markwell website, right? I see this, or I don't see this a lot, I should say. I feel like the crown dimensions is something that should be advocately, that should be indefinitely listed on every single website. Crown size matters. I've had one whole watch, I'm not going to mention which one, but I had a watch completely ruined because the crown was smaller than what I was used to. The pictures made it look more of like a normal size. I can't remember what size or dimensions make it to the point where it's too small. It just feels funny. It's just not a good feel, right? And if you're looking at a watch that aesthetically is amazing, fits amazing, I think that the crown actually matters, especially if we're talking about a mechanical watch, because you guys know how much you have to interact with that, right? To be fair. So with that said, and with me having the watch, let's get the crown dimensions of it. And we're looking at a 6.3, which is on the money, because the second thing that matters, what I noticed, because I do have still a watch in my collection where the crown doesn't feel too good, is how the crown is composed, right? Most of them have a nice knurling to them, coined edge knurling, but some of them actually have, when they're trying to be a little fancy, usually with the vintage inspiration ones, and it's not the case here with this. I think John is aware of that crown having to be comfortable, keyless work function. But when the crown has a little bit of knurling on it, and then it has like the polished end, the polished rounded end, that one is probably one of the worst crowns that you can have, especially when that is emphasized by a smaller size. Now, again, because I have the mind of a squirrel, I already forgot the size of this, but this is a 6.4 millimeter crown. Definitely enough. The knurling on it is for sure enough to be able to grip onto. So we have some nice knurling on there. And in case you guys missed the first one, this is Cesium. This is the brand's logo. And he actually looms this as a nice little party trick as is, which is going to go nicely with these markers on here, right? These loom blocks, if you will. And trying to get a good angle so you guys can see and appreciate. Now, the 12, 3, 6, and 9 are emphasized on this. It still gives you a minimalistic type of vibe because I don't think that there are no minute markers on this. So this is all fun and less function. So it has that kind of vibe. And I think that that was intentional entirely. I think the whole vibe to the watch in general is meant to be more of a fun type of watch, because I think that what happened was they came out with two watches that was more of a serious type of, not serious, but more of like an artistic and inspirational and everything else. And I'm not trying to say that this doesn't have it. What I am trying to say is that I think that he may have gotten feedback by going to the shows. I believe Markwell was at the DC Times, if I'm not mistaken, right? So maybe he's gotten feedback from other shows prior, because he came out with this watch, I think, prior to then. And I think that this gives a very good dynamic to the brand in general. This is very exciting to see. I'm excited to do a deep dive review so you guys can get better pictures of it. Let's take a look at what chat's saying. So when Lone Ranger verifies what you're saying, you're automatically valid. So he says crown definitely matters. It has to matter, bro. If you are messing around with a mechanical watch, especially, the keyless work in general matters. And if you have a crappy feel, and you don't understand this unless you've had it happen to you before, it ruins the experience. Like, for sure, I purchased the watch. I don't remember the size of the crown. I want to say, and Lone Ranger, I don't know if you know what the minimum size of a crown should be. I want to say that the minimum size of a crown may be a 6.0 millimeters. This one's 6.4, so it's on the cusp of it. However, the knurling also matters. The finishing also matters. So you may be able to get away from a smaller crown. And now, the width of the crown is really what I'm talking about. And I'm glad I'm wearing this watch, actually, because this crown is way smaller. Let's measure the crown of my vintage watch that I'm actually wearing. This one measures out to 5.4 millimeters. Yeah. So, and this crown still doesn't feel too bad. And let me show you guys the crown that I'm looking at. This is a vintage watch that I own. This is a Vario strap. Look how small this crown is, or at least how thin, right? It's 5.4. However, it has still a good amount of width to it, so it's not so bad. It is pretty thin, yeah. But I think that also the finishing and the knurling. Now, if this had a bump out to it, and that bump out was polished, that's what I'm talking about. That would probably make this unwindable, but my fingers actually grip here, so it's not so bad. So the size of the crown, be nice, PG-13 is friendly here, brother. The size of the crown matters. And I think that not only does it matter, but I think that, and again, this is not towards only Markwell, this is towards a lot of micro brands. I think that a lot of them need to mention the dimensions of the crown. We beat a dead horse. I don't think I could say crown anymore. Trap Vision has blessed us with his presence. Mr. Trap Vision 3D, Mr. Netflix, Mr. Trapflix, Mr. It all started with a you know what watch is in the building. What's going on, brother? Hey, what did he say? He said, at the gig watching fire. Appreciate you, bro. Let's see what you got to say, Lone Ranger. Some of my watches have small polished crowns, and it can be a nightmare. Thank you, bro. I appreciate you verifying, man, because I thought I was alone. I don't really see much people talking about the crown of a watch. And we're not going to beat a dead horse. We're going to move on. But I had it literally ruin the experience of buying a brand new watch entirely. And that's where the lesson was learned. And therefore, I'm passing down the knowledge to you guys who hopefully can gain from it. So let's go back to the website. Let's pull this camera down and do this. Okay, so we've already established that I feel like the specifications should be condensed. We already said that. How about the weight of the watch? I think that that's important. And I think the weight of the watch should be split into two. Now, I don't feel like the weight of the watch is as important as the size of the crown. Yeah. It only really matters the weight of a watch when it starts to exceed a certain point. And I don't really know what that point is. But I do know that I've had oversized watches in the past that after a certain period of wearing it, it hurts the wrist. So I think that if the watch is presented on an actual bracelet, then it should be weighted with full length. It should be weighted with watch head alone, right? Give us the two different things on that as well. I think that's important. Now we have 10 bars of water resistance, which effectively makes this an actual dress watch, right? 10 bars is not enough. Maybe a little drizzle, maybe washing hands, but that's about it. And then we have luminescent numerals, markers, that's all listed in as well. So again, and just to emphasize this, I feel that the loom blocks on this is insanity. And now I like this. This is very daring. I feel that matching the second hand to the dial color is very ballsy, right? However, on this particular model specifically, we have kind of like that fume effect around, so you can notice this a lot more and everything else. So I do like that. I like how the second hand is fully extended. That's having a lot of fun, I think. I think that that's having a lot of fun because at the end of the day, the minute hand is extended all the way out. The second hand has a nice balance, by the way, to the actual stylistic on this. But the second hand is extended out to the minute track, quote unquote. There's no minute track there. But that's the point. There's no minute track there, right? But I think that he wants to stay on theme regardless if he's going for more of a minimalistic style. Now, it eludes me. I'm not sure if the actual other watches were the same way. Let's see, the Datematic. Yeah, that was also a minimalistic vibe. So he's staying on theme, actually. Let's look at the Memento Mori as well. Let's just make sure we dot all our I's and cross our T's here. Go to watches. Okay. Here we go. This is the Memento Mori. Okay, so it's on theme. It was always kind of like a minimalistic style too. So I can't be too mad. But what is very different. Now, here's the deal, right? Let's go back to that. Go to watches. What was the price? This was $969. He then came out with the Datematic, which was an SW200 regulated. Now, I'm curious if he actually regulated the new watch as well. That's a question that I have for him and something that I want to also include into my reviews. But still a beautiful fume at the edge there. This one on the blue one specifically, a little less than the actual other ones in noticing that kind of fume. I like that I was sent the blue watch, but this yellow pops as well. This is really, really on time for that spring type of vibe. I feel like the actual loom blocks are a little bit more emphasized on there as well. And I think he also notes on this, just so we know all of the information. Let's click into one. I'm all over the place. Hold on one second. They will have rounded hands, not squared off, and they will also be painted in white and not stainless. So a more of a white background makes a lot of sense. And he said that they're going to be more rounded off. Okay, so I have a new terminology, ladies and gentlemen, that I want to present to you guys. And I've been dancing with the idea of micro brands, right? And listen, this is literally for only you guys, the watch nerds, because I think that getting too focused on small things like how we name things can be a little petty at times. However, sometimes doing that kind of focus can be a little bit of fun. Ooh. Now I'm coining this, and I think that I'm the first person to name an actual independent brand this way. But for 2025, let's get rid of the word micro brand. They're either an independent brand or they're a web brand. What do you guys think about that? Well, you might say, Skylar, what does a web brand mean? a watch enthusiast brand. I hear the applaud. I know I'm talking to myself, but I hear the applaud. A web brand, right? They build a web, they try to trap us, maybe we're the flies, and then they wrap us up in their web, and then you get what I'm saying, right? A watch enthusiast brand. I think that moving forward, we should call independent brands that are smaller, not micro, we should call them web brands, watch enthusiast brands. Just saying. Let's see what you guys say. Laurier puts an emphasis on crown size in comparison to the case size. So Laurier focuses specifically on the crown size. So I was really on par. I was onto something, right? That makes a lot of sense. And I haven't owned a Laurier yet. I've gone by the table several occasions. I'm hopefully will get one on the channel. And I think that they're a New York brand. Trap, you need to plug me up. What's going on over here? I need you to make an introductory. I think that especially watch brands that are in my backyard, I should be trying to represent and get it on the channel. Laurier has a phenomenal reputation. I know this because on Watch Crunch right now, there's a tournament going on who's going to be crowned the king for the year. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Watch Crunch is a platform for enthusiasts, watch enthusiasts. And every year, a specific person on there does a voting system of a select amount of brands. It's a lot of brands. And the community decides which brand gets nominated to be number one for the year, right? So Laurier is actually doing phenomenal in that tournament, and I'm excited to see who's going to be crowned. I wonder what the speculations are, but I want to stay on theme and everything else. JC Watch is in the building. He says, "Hi, Skylar. I love the watch too. I think it's fantastic. I can't wait to do a closer look and a deeper dive of it." I do apologize. This is the best camera angle that that I could give you guys right now. But let's get a close up on it. Let's properly look at the case back. We have an FKM strap on here. I think white does it very good justice. He also includes quick release over here. We have a bead blasted background with that cesium type of element on the back case there. It's well done. That's the trick. I think that I'm seeing a lot of people, even on, just to show as an example, and I like to keep it on theme with the watch that we're seeing, but here's a more affordable brand, and it's not as emphasized on this case back. However, we're seeing a lot of that bead blast, and then I think it's bead blast and brushed, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it's polished. That does two things. It emphasizes the actual depiction that they're trying to put in the center of the case, and B, it being bead blast combined with brushed is going to scratch less. Therefore, if you put a bracelet on it, which we don't have a bracelet on here, however, if we did, it would make less scratches when it makes contact to the case back as is. Now, this is a screw down case back, just like how the other models are. Of course, we have that Telford case, which is the signature thing to it. Now, I don't know if Markwell is going to continue with this case. I think that the next model or the one after should, and I think that, here's my projections, I think we might be seeing a GMT next. I don't know. But I think that he should lean into that vintage inspiration for sure. I keep Markwell and vintage inspiration synonymous. So I do think that there are a lot of vintage style cases that were out there back in the day that are not the proper, or is not a size that a lot of people are comfortable with. So I think that moving forward, maybe we should be looking at another case as is, but this one is absolutely beautiful. If I remember and the memory serves me correctly, we have, instead of horizontal brushing, I think this has vertical brushing. I'm not definitely on the lugs. Yeah, this is vertical brushing. So that's also something that's a little different. You have that loom on that crown that I showed you guys before and everything else. So overall, I do like the watch. It is a lot of fun. It's a step in the right direction for the brand. Getting away from its other models for sure. And I'm happy with it. And I think he did a very good job with that loom blocks. I will take loom shots for you guys as we progress. Let's do this. We did the case back. We did this. I showed you guys the other strap. I think we're doing pretty good as far as showing everything. Let's put it back on the thing. Let me read chat. Whoa, JC Watch. Let me catch up on chat. I love that watch. Strayham, my friend. I love that. Yeah, the white dial and so the white indexes on here is fantastic. And I know, JC, that you're a big fan of Zelos. So if you're impressed by this dial, then that says something, because Zelos is not only the king of specification. Oh, I never even wound the watch, guys. Yo, you guys got to put me. Don't be afraid to call me out on things over here. I don't know if it was actually going, but I never wound the watch. So there we go. Let me position it really quick, and then catch up on the chat and see what you guys talking about. Fix the lighting a little bit. Let's make it more like, oh. Let's see where we're at. Stram watch. Stram, my friend. Love that white. Yep. Love the white strap. Yep. Some of us do not. What? I'm sorry, my eyesight fails me. Some of us do not own a Laurier. Yeah, I don't own a Laurier, man. Listen, I don't have the bankroll like Trap does. You know what I mean? Just saying. He tells us that he's not buying any more watches, but yet he's got to watch every live brand new one. Just saying. Stop the cap. Where we at? Love the loom on that. I'm gonna do a loom shot for sure. Stram watches. Okay. Yeah, I think that they're doing pretty well in the actual tournament itself. So I'm curious to see who's gonna come out king on that for sure. Hold on. I feel I feel a troll. Nah, man, I'm not trolling you. I'm just, I'm just stating what's going on. You know what I mean? Markwell. Oh, okay. Yeah. Markwell. I was gonna say, I was like trying. JC, I don't know if you caught it, right? But I was like trying to read it, and I'm like, what is he trying to say, Maxwell? Markwell. Nah, it's all good, bro. It's all good. Markwell. Yeah. No, listen, I'm presenting the damn thing, and you know how many times I have to mentally check myself because I'm so used to like being involved with Mark Time. I don't want to say the wrong name, but it's all good, bro. I know what you mean, sort of. Eventually, he's laughing. He loves it. I just removed. I caught myself that time. I caught myself. I removed myself. Last time I removed myself, and I kept going. What else can I say, man? I think that's pretty much that I had on the actual watch that I wanted to present it. I think that a lot of you guys, and I'm glad you guys agreed on what I had to say for the watch in general. I also do appreciate the price point, right? Because before, in the past prior, he was at 900, and I think it was the Salida on the Memento Mori, the first watch. As a matter of fact, let's verify that. I have you guys. It's Friday. Let's hang out. There's no need to rush. Let's see what we're talking about here. I think the Memento Mori was an also SW200. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. Actually, I'm probably wrong, because why would that be 969? The following watch would be other. So let's see. SW200. It wasn't SW200. So I'm a little curious as to why this watch is where it is, to be fair and to be honest with you guys. I don't know why the price is for this watch at that movement, at that price. Maybe this is an all-loom dial. I'm not too sure. I'll reach out to John to find out. But anyway, we went from 9 and change to 7 and change. And now with the new watch, and I don't think it comes up here. No, I have to click it separately for some reason. I think that's because the watch in question is still on pre-order. But now we're at 579. And you guys know how I feel about bringing a watch to a point where it could be at the price range for everybody else. Now, I don't foresee the brand going to an NH35 to bring it all the way. Plus, his case is a 10.35, so I don't think it's going to be tough to fit an actual Seiko movement into that just for sake's be. And I don't know if the brand's going to go that direction. I would maybe say that the rotor would have to be removed. I don't know if that would work, and I don't know if people would appreciate that. However, a Miyota Series 9039 high beat movement still is a nice addition. I hope that it's regulated. It doesn't necessarily need to be. The tolerances that people receive from factory is usually on par, but it would still be on theme with what they do, because they took the SW200 and they actually regulated that. Now, if I had to guess, and I didn't confirm this, it's probably in one position, much like the Dufresne, because it is expensive to get expensive meaning trading time to actually regulate a movement in 5 positions. That's something that I've mentioned before here on this channel. When you see regulation on a movement, it is very nice to have that. Some may argue that it's not necessary. Enthusiasts for sure would say that it is because it's a web brand. And I think that we do appreciate that, but you got to realize that there's different levels to this game, right? And then there was the education that I received for the different quality of movements within the SW200 series, SW-1. I feel like that's something that's not talked about as much and emphasized, and it really should be, because as I get nerdier into this hobby, the movement is starting to actually become a thing for me. And when I learned that there's an elaborate version of the SW200, there's an actual higher, there's like 3 other tiers to the SW200. So things of this nature matter. And when we talk about the elaborate to, let's say, what's the next one? I forget the next other 2 levels into it, but basically it goes up to the level of cost. And at that point, of course, we're talking about several positions being tested. I think it's 5. I think 5 is the max. Maybe it's 6. I don't know. But when a brand advertises, that's another thing, going back to what they're advertising and specifically, I don't think that it's enough to say that I'm regulating the movement, to be fair. I think, and we're getting nerdy, I think that we need to also mention in how many positions, pause, talking about the watch movement. How many positions was it actually regulated in? Do you guys agree, or is that too far down the rabbit hole, or like, am I on par? I mean, is what I'm saying making sense? Because it's regulated, cool, but in how many? Because there's a difference. There's a difference in 1 position versus 5, closer to cost. I mean, there's brands that are charging a pretty penny for that. Just saying. That being said, the watch now has to be outsourced. I'm giving you guys all angles here. My mind's going crazy. If it is regulated in 5 positions, there's also an extended test that has to go on for cost. So then, therefore, that's going to bring the price up on the watch. Now, how many people actually need that in-depth in their watch? I don't know. Even in the enthusiast world, I don't know. I know for sure, I know for damn sure, people care about the tolerances, because there's a lot of people that put their nose up to the NH35 just because the factory tells you that there's a large range. I'm telling you right now, this watch, wish do it, right? Wish do it. Under $100. I think that you'll see this when I do the deep dive review. I'm working on editing on that. I think that it was running plus or minus 6 or 7 seconds a day on a Seiko NH35. So when they say minus 20, plus 40, oh my God, that movement is trash. It's like, less than $100 plus or minus 7 seconds a day, that outpaces a lot of the higher beat movements. Is that guaranteed? No. Is it easy to regulate? Questionable. It's definitely not at a level where you have to take to a watchmaker. It is very possible. There's YouTube videos on it. Let me catch up on chat. I'm getting off the mark. Hold on 1 second. Let's go back up. Apologize, guys. Is that an SW200? So the watch, JC, that I have here is not an SW200. That is a Miyota 9039, a true non-date complication. As we know, the 9015 is the actual date for the Miyota series. So he did the right thing. He knew what he was doing there, and he knows what he's doing. Because when John and Alan entered into the market for Markwell, here's why they have my respect. Here's what you've got to understand. A, they didn't say that I want enthusiasts to fund it. They backed all their products themselves. They put up all the money. Now, this one, as I can see, is on pre-order. So I'm talking about the initial launch of the Memento Mori. He put his money where his mouth is. That's number 1, which that's super ballsy. Just saying. Number 2, he opened up a category that's not commonly tackled. Yes, vintage inspired is there, but how often do you see a Telford type of case design and people go after that full-fledged? Not very often. And he did it he initially launched with the SW200. So a lot of respect to this brand, I have to say. How's that Zelos? Let me bring the chat up so you guys can. How's that Zelos doing? You know, it's in the collection still. It's not going anywhere. Lone Ranger's trying to steal it. The Zelos is fire, bro. It's staying in my collection indefinitely. It has a meteorite dial, therefore it takes away the pain for when Trap Vision 3D shows his Zeneo watch, because he doesn't like to follow instructions when I tell him not to show that watch anymore. So the Zelos watch is, let me tell you something. I've heard the reputation. I've heard only good things about Zelos. The actual watch supersedes what you hear about the company. And I'm not just saying that. That watch is not going anywhere. That watch is staying in my collection. The older SW200 has some, yes, it did have some ratcheting issues. Absolutely. That's why it's important. And I haven't been saying this, but the actual movements that are used moving forward by most companies is the SW-1, which signifies that issue that the SW200 series minus the -1 was having with that ratcheting. And I think the real problem was with the complication of the date. It was actually getting messed up. So yes, it does matter. But I do you guys know any brands that are actually using an SW200 any longer? And I don't think that anybody's using the one that actually had defect issues. Doing great. Awesome. Let me catch up on chat. Hold on. Let me just dedicate the next few minutes on chat. On par. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I don't know what part of watch because I lost chat, but my watch has tested in 6 positions. Now it's running. What? Which watch was that, Trap? This watch was tested in 6 positions and now running +1 second. That is phenomenal. That is phenomenal. +1 second is like, wow. Does cost matter in a vintage watch? I guess you're asking me if it matters in a vintage inspired watch. It does, Eric, because when people look at something like a Laurier, your Baltics, your Markwell, all your vintage inspired companies, they understand that they're getting vintage inspiration, but with modern parts. And that's part of the attraction to them. Yeah, because an actual vintage watch, you don't know how that movement has been treated for the X amount of years that it's been out there. You don't know if it's been beat up. You don't know if it's been properly serviced. Has those service intervals actually been in the actual time that where it'll, because here's the deal. Here's what you need to understand. When you have a vintage watch and you don't do the service calls when you're supposed to, and it's not when the watch starts running really bad, right? By then, it's already too late. The oils have dried up. The metal on metal has created micro frictions, and there's actual damage in a micro level building up over time being done to that movement. So now parts have to be replaced rather than cleaned and oiled. So do you know if the watch you're purchasing that say is 30, 50, 70 years old, whatever, has been serviced before those things started to happen to the movement, right? And those parts may have never been swapped out. So when people go after these vintage inspired brands, it's because they want a modern movement, because they don't want any of the headaches. However, they want the aesthetics, if that makes sense. Trap Vision is laughing. Eric, it would matter to me. Yeah. Wait, no, Eric. Oh, you're saying to Eric, Lone Ranger, it would matter to me. Yeah, it also. Okay, so if a vintage inspired watch isn't cost certified, does that mean I won't purchase it? I'm not there yet. I don't need a cost certified movement. In fact, I'm not really big on plus or minus. For me, it is more like I don't know how to explain it. For me, it's more like just having it to have it, right? It's a mechanical watch, number one. If I want something that's going to be better than cost, because I just wear an Apple Watch, right? That takes the fun out of it, because I get that having a mechanical watch that can run plus 0 seconds a year is the ultimate flex in this nerdy world of ours. But for me, at this point, it's cool. It's nice to say. I would spend time regulating an NH35 just because. But it doesn't matter to the point where I'll say, well, that's not that's not regulated in 5 positions, so I'm not. No, bro, come on. I'm here for the aesthetics. What are you talking about? I'll be getting another zealous. Dude, Trap, you are Captain Cap. You are Captain Planet. You are Cap Planet. What happened to? I'm not buying no watchers. I'm just buying straps. I'm just gonna buy shuffle straps. Every time you go live, bro, you're like, yeah, man, they gave me a good deal on this. I got this for the low. Mark from Eyeless Watch owns his first Zelos. I saw that JC watch. Shout out to my man Mark from Long Island Watch. He did his review video on the Zelos, and I know that you're a big fan of Zelos, so therefore you were paying attention to that. He loved it, and as he should, because Zelos is the bomb digs, and it was cool to see him do an actual review. So Mark is not just a brand; he's actually a reviewer. He's actually an enthusiast of watches. I've also seen him advocate for a brand that I'm now heavily looking after, which is I'm just buying time because I can't remember the name. They just came out with their automatic watch. Oh, Brew watches, right? Jonathan. And I get why Mark backs Brew as well. Jonathan's is a fantastic guy, man. I had nothing but good things to say about going to the pop-up shop in New York. I'm watching Brew, and I told you guys that he was coming out with something slick real soon. Soon enough, he came out with his first automatic watch. So let's just say he's not done yet. It's more about testing and attention to accuracy. Yeah, I guess, dude, because you know what happens? This is what happens. You enter into watch collecting. You get nostalgic about, I don't think I need the second camera anymore. Do you guys want to see the watch? Still, you get nostalgic about an automatic watch, even though you know it's basically like getting nostalgic about a VHS. To be fair, right? I don't want to upset anybody, but you know, we have phones. We're surrounded by time. So you're getting nostalgic about a VHS, and usually people will start off with the NH35, and then after they get comfortable with that, they're like, okay, so what else is there? And then they start to really recognize the high beat movement, the high complications, and everything else of the like, right? So from there, you really get nerdier about the accuracy. It becomes like, okay, so how much closer can I get to this? And if you really want to play that game, I want to say that Grand Seiko is the one to go with, right? Like I think that Grand Seiko is, and I don't often talk about luxury brands, but I have an actual genuine interest in Grand Seiko because I feel like it's like, I don't know. It's not talked about enough. They're under the radar more than they should be. It's coming up a lot more. They're definitely. You have Wristful Ignorance not Wristful Ignorance. You have Wrist on Wine that just did a video about brands and the jobs that they would hold, right? And he mentioned Grand Seiko at the end, and he speaks about how the brand has a specific focus on accuracy, innovation, and everything else. There's a high level of finish on the dials and the. Dude, if you're looking at a luxury brand, Grand Seiko has been gunning for excellence in accuracy since day one. And I think that if more people talked about it, would be more mainstream. But they in my heart of hearts, and I'm not a big luxury brand guy, as you guys know, but in my heart of hearts, when you talk about the accuracy game, I think that they are pretty high up on there. Wasn't me, bro. I'm not buying nothing else after this. Man, Captain Cap. That's it. Where's my mic? Captain Cap. Just saying. Oh yeah, I did see that GT. I was praying to the horology gods that Zelos would be like, yo, Santana, we like your stuff. Want to check out this? It didn't happen. That's okay. Can't be a pig. I saw that watch. I did see the reviews on it. Fire. Here's the deal. Here's something you don't know about me. I have a very strong attraction to power reserves. Like, it doesn't take much in a watch. I don't know what it is about a power reserve, bro, but like a power reserve in a mechanical watch is just like, Oh, I love it. And that's the reason why I got the Blue Angels, because in one click of the chronograph hand, which it's an actual quartz watch that's solar, that in one click it can tell you how much power is. That's fire, bro. Power reserves are the deal. The GT, which is a car inspired, by the way, obviously, watch. I still think it's super cool. And I know you're going to get that watch. I would imagine that. See, here's the deal. The thing about Zelos is a lot of people feel that every single one of their watches are going to sell out really fast. I did some testing. That didn't happen with their last release. There's still watches available even after. And maybe I'm a little too quick on the draw. You know, maybe like the timeline is they're sold out in 2-3 months. That's fast. But there's still a lot of availability for their new Mako. Now, that doesn't run linear with every single one of their releases, and I do understand that. And I do suspect that this GT and JC Watch, you are the professional when it comes to Zelos. Let me know which colorway that you think is going to be sold out the quickest. Grand Seiko rocks. It really does. Their dials are unmatched. The finishing on the like the watchmakers at Grand Seiko, if they mess up, like they just off themselves. Yeah. Like if they make a mistake, they're like, I've dishonored my family. Like, dude, the Japanese culture is so keen on just perfection. There's so much pride in perfection that it is carried over into the brand itself. And if I were to go anywhere, it would probably be a Grand Seiko. Probably. Look at the cost, like military training. You train to become a soldier during basic training, then you have soldiers that advance training to become elite. That's cost for me. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes a hell of a lot of sense. And you know what, dude? This rabbit hole event, I think this rabbit hole has very common themes of where it leads you down, right? There's some people that will say, to modifying or to building their own watch, but that's an avenue that happens. Getting a watch that runs super, super on time is another avenue. Getting a watch that has complications in it that is unseen, like let's say, I'm just throwing this out there, it's on the top of my mind, a Belcanto, you know, at the price range that it's at. You now have that jump hour from Xeric. So things like that, I think it's only natural that when you're actually looking at web brands, who can tell me what web brand means? I'm telling you, that's going to be a thing. And I want you to remember that on Skylar Santana's watch channel, it was the first time that you heard it. Now, to be fair, Watch Chris just came out with a video where it said watch enthusiast brand. And that's where I came up with web. But he didn't call it a web. I didn't watch the video. So if he calls it web in there, then it is what it is. You know, I'm just copywriting at this point. But I think instead of saying micro, we say a web brand, watch enthusiast brand. Just saying. Down the hatch. Where we at on chat? Let me catch up on chat. How long we've been live? Man, we got to call it quits, ladies and gentlemen. Love that power reserve. Yes. He's producing more of each variant. That's crazy. Yo, dude, where does he have, like, where does it come from? Dude, he must have a book of like 1,000 designs for him to not only create a brand that's based off of brand new designs every 3 months, probably less than that. Where does he get the energy for that, man? Zelos is such a magical brand, to be honest with you. And I know they get a lot of slack for these limited runs, but dude, that's the beauty of it, man. Like you buy that watch and you know that 300 heads to 500 heads out there in the world have that watch, and that's it. And then they come out with something new. And then you have an ecosystem where you can trade and just have a lot of fun with the watches. I love the way Zelos is constructed. I think that every single one of their watches is fantastically built. Zelos might be on my top 5. They are on my top 5 from moving forward. Zelos is my top 5 web brand. We're not saying micro no more. In 2025, we're not saying micro no more. What's that now? That new Zelos is inspired by Lamborghini's first super. Hey man, I'm not a car guy. I know a lot of watch people are car guys. If you say so, bro. If you say so, spot on. And JC Watch, you know, he's a Zelos, as you can see. That's on his logo. He's a Zelos Pro. So it's good to have him on my corner. I'm glad he's a fan. Might be getting a variant of the GT. Let's see here, not offered to the public. Not offered to the public. Sheesh. You got like the gold membership with them, bro? Like the platinum membership? Like JC said, yeah, this is not offered to you muggles, but for us wizards, I've got offered that watch. Just saying. The carbon case. Yeah, that's another thing to also mention. I mean, Zelos is no stranger to using specialized material like that. The carbon case kind of goes crazy. I want to say it was Formex that did an actual carbon bracelet. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's insane. I would love for Zelos to eventually try to attempt the same thing. Even still, coming out with a carbon case, bro, fuego. Elson, yeah, Elson is an engineer, has an engineer degree. Okay, so he probably he's probably been jotting these designs down since he was 12. Elson Tang is a G, bro. He's a G. It's kind of crazy how I came, like I knew about Zelos, but I didn't really know about Zelos like that. And now that I've sipped the Kool-Aid, Zelos is in my top 5. Wise is another company, man. I'm knocking on Wise's door because I feel like they're also another brand that's up there. I want to drink the Kool-Aid of how it is to have a 904. Is it 904? 904 stainless steel like Rolex does. I've only heard. So here's the thing. I follow the cookie crumber. I follow the cookie crumbs. Wise makes noise just like how Zelos makes noise. And I feel like, oh, I can't say that. I'm going to say that there are a lot of people that advocate for both companies in a very similar manner. Politically. Got to be politically correct over here. I've only heard great things about both companies. I'm knocking on I'm knocking on Wise's door. I want to play around with one of their watches. Yeah, I have a very good suspicion that they also are making some heat. I can't verify that they're in my top 5 if I don't touch and feel their watches. However, I have some suspicion that they are up there as well. But Zelos, man, I'm a fan. Zelos brings an excellent to my collection, unlike the other mic. And that says a lot, bro, because you're at, I'm going to throw a number out there. You're at 130 watches. So for you to say that Zelos makes waves in your collection actually means something very, very, very in high regard. So, and I get it. I'm not even nearly, and the one that you have, that orange dialway, man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. I don't think it's available anymore, and that's the MO. But here's the deal, guys. Just let's round off the conversation with Zelos. Understand that there's a whole ecosystem with Zelos where people trade. There's a whole Facebook group. And if you missed out on something, don't give money to the scalpers. Listen, scalpers are scalpers, but there's a whole ecosystem with Zelos, and Elson intentionally did it this way because remember, Elson Tang started off with trading high-end brands. He was trading your Rolexes of the world, your Omegas, this, that, and the third. He was eventually inspired to build a brand that, of course, worldwide wouldn't have the same effect, but he was inspired to build an ecosystem that would feel the same way. And when it comes to web brands, what does web mean? Nobody said it yet. When it comes to web brands, I think he effectively has done that. And I understand the world that he's created completely, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. When you get away and when you let go of the fact that you may miss the boat on a couple of watches, you then can enjoy the fact that you now own a watch from them. If you're able to grab that watch fast enough, now you are having a watch that's not being produced entirely. So just saying, Cello Springs, I read that. Yeah, Wise is fire, man. I'm knocking on that door. If anybody out there has connections and you like this channel and you could connect me up, let me not go into that. I'm just trying to get some plugins with Wise. Love Wise of Thailand. So, dude, you are firing at every. Okay, so I need you to send me on Watch Crunch because I know you're on there. I need you to send me the list of your top 5 companies outside of Zelos and Wise because I feel like me and you are like, you know what I mean? Me and you are like right there. Let me catch up on chat and then we got to split, ladies and gentlemen. We've been on here for a lot of great edges. Yeah, use the term. There we go. What is web? So JC Watch or anybody else on chat, the first person to mention it. What does web brand mean? What does web brand mean before we close out? First person to say what web brand means. I'm trying to make this into a thing, bro. And then you know what? If it becomes a thing, you heard it on here first. What does web brand mean? And in 2025, should we be calling all of the independent brands a web brand? Because I think you go from when you start a watch company, as the sun shines on my face, as you start a independent brand, you're not an independent brand. You are technically, right? You're independent. So you are. But I feel like with the watch culture, independent brand is salvaged for like the Oris and the Christopher Ward and like the names, you know what I mean? So when you start off a brand, I don't want to call it micro anymore, man. I feel like that's, you know how much passion these guys, you have to understand, you know what goes into starting a watch brand, whether you're starting with on the shelf parts or you're starting with your own unique design. It doesn't matter. The hoops that you have to jump through, the things that you have to deal with. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been connected with people behind the scenes to really know what it takes to start off a brand. And it's not an easy thing. So especially if you start a brand, let's say you're sub 1 year, or even if you're a year, maybe you're a year and 6 months, it doesn't matter. And you're at a watch show, the hustle that you're putting into, I do respect. Because ladies and gentlemen, it is very hard to not only enter into that space, but to succeed. It's like getting drafted in the NBA. At this point, we're literally living through time when it comes to these micro brands. We're literally watching how Rolex started, how Omega started. I think that these micro brands are going to become a lot bigger than we expect because here's the deal. Yes, they don't have a brick and mortar, but right now we're on a digital world. You guys are watching me through a live stream. So them being web-based, so what? That can be stronger than a brick and mortar because now you serve a town or you serve a city. But when you're web-based, you serve the world. Fair enough? So I think that we're not calling them micro brands, these web brands. I'm gonna check chat to see who can tell me what web brand means. These web brands are casting a net, and they're going to be 30 years from now. It's gonna be crazy. LOL, totally. Thank you, sir. Oh, no, we're not calling them that. We're not calling them that. We're not calling them that no more, bro. 2025. I just said they're called web brands, JC. Just saying. So that new Zelos has used elements and designs and big names are using Breitling, T-Sol. What elements are you talking about? Are you if you're talking, yeah, I need to know what you're talking about. Omega's materials is premium. New Zelos are those same designs. Are we talking about the? I know we're not talking about the meteorite, right? Because meteorite's being used in micro brands a lot. I mean, Venetianico just came out with their Arsenale meteorite dial, and they also came out with a Damascus, I think. Now it's crazy. It's crazy. Guys, this is moving a million miles a second, and I'm super excited to be part of that ride. But we've been on here for a long time. I'm going to sign off now. But however, I do appreciate you guys for tuning in and making this a whole lot of fun. We're going to do a deep dive of this Markwell watch for sure. And I'm excited to see what kind of shots that I can take of it. What do I come up from it? Listen, here's the deal. It's the same case, so I do expect to find something of equal. Like, here's the deal. It's just playful, right? It's just playful at the end of the day with this new enamel dial and everything else. So I expect it to be fantastic like the other watches that he made. And I do appreciate everybody for spending their most valuable asset, which is time. And I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Have a fantastic weekend, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll see you guys next Friday. Peace.